you hear about this, the stories about drugs and so on. Drugs is something that is actually responsible for a lot of the undermining of the stability of society all over the world. You would agree with that?
Yes, I would definitely agree with that.
So therefore you have drugs as part of your theme,
yes,
as part of your plot.
It sets the center stage for the story.
So you look at our headline this morning about the Filipino national who was fined $2.5 million
yes,
and so on, and you remind yourself, well, I use drugs as part of my plot. But we have other headlines like the raging controversy with the media. Do you have any journalists in your plot?
Yes, actually there's a guy called Lance Jones in my story, and he's a journalist for this fictitious newspaper called The Tabloid. And what it explores is he has a very controversial relationship with the Prime Minister because he has comments, he blames him for everything. He blames him for if the price of rice and flour goes up, if people can't afford milk, or the pensioner isn't able to maintain herself and the child. So he continuously blames the Prime Minister for a series of murders and lifestyle changes that are occurring in the country. So I think it's very it's nice to be on the talk show this morning with such a hot issue.
So the journalist in your novel, he's going after the Prime Minister.
Yes, very adamant about it. Yeah, and what I've explored also is the human side that the Prime Minister has to go through too. Because remember, you could make a comment, and I could understand somebody becoming upset about the comment, but there is what I explore in the book is the procedures that the Prime Minister actually uses to appeal to this journalist to try to get things done. Because I think what's most important,
some of the challenges that he faces.
Yes, that the Prime Minister faces, and how he tries to interact with this character called Lance Jones. Because something that was on my mind while writing the book is that if the Prime Minister reacts negatively, alright, or that might be the right word, but if he responds probably not using the right channels, what's going to happen is you're going to have a divide between the head of government and the people.
You create you create a conflict situation.
You are going to create a conflict. You're going to create a conflict situation, and you know what? Not everybody's going to make their comments on air that you could hear. You're going to have people in their households making the comments about the Prime Minister or the Minister of National Security, and you're not going to hear it. You're not going to be able to do anything about it. So if you approach a situation like that diplomatically, so to say, all right, you could get the same result while maintaining, faith for the people.
How old are you, sir?
I'm 25 years.
You're 25 years old, and I heard from a very good friend of mine, and I never actually considered it. And he's deep into preaching and talking and so on, and he's an Islamic scholar, and he talked about something that is called writer's fear, and what his teacher did for him in order for him to overcome writer's fear. And it was the first time I thought in my whole life that there was something that was called writer's fear. Have you ever thought about that? I mean, for you to be writing a book, producing a novel at age 25, you said?
Yes.
At age 25. I mean, you have already surmounted that, haven't you? You have overcome that. I
could talk about that from my experience writing the book, or even stories before. I grew up always trying to concoct a story. I grew up influenced a lot by Louis Armour's work, the Westerner, and I would always try to write stories and never finish them. I would never have the climax for it. And 90 Days of Violence is something that I've been looking at for the past 3 years. And
it took you 3 years working on this book?
Yes, it took me 3 years. What happened though is probably for the first year and a half, I wrote, and there's the big question, is my work any good? I mean, yes, you're confident in what you're doing, but the fear that, all right, when this becomes a reality, what will be the impact, or how would I feel about it after? Because we were talking earlier about the print being, and it's so final what you're going to give to the people. So I did experience. I actually worked on the story, and after about 3 to 4 months of working on it, scrapped the entire idea and stopped, put it down, And it's only about a year and a half ago I picked it up back seriously. And since then I've been trying to work together with my father to kind of, tighten up the edges, because the both of us worked on it.
How, have you come from a literary background that has influenced you towards this?
My father, he was a journalist at one point in time. He isn't anymore. But in terms of literary background...
that reminds me of C. Prasad Naipaul and Vidya Naipaul.
Yeah.
C. Prasad Naipaul, he was Vidya Naipaul's father, and he was a journalist.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Really?
No, I didn't know that. That's interesting. Thanks for that.
So your father was a journalist at one time?
Yes, he was a journalist at one point in time. And so in terms of a literary background, beyond that, I would just have to say, a lot of reading in terms of espionage and spy novels influenced what I did here with 90 Days of Violence.
To what extent television has influenced you?
A good deal, in terms of seeing the reproduction of different books that I may have read, and seeing how what I like is how they're able to switch between characters and get different perspectives on one topic here, similar to what you were talking about earlier, with the impact of the media and the response. You will have your opinion, people out there will have their opinion. So I like how books and movies are able to capture that, but I'll say definitely books influenced it more.
It is amazing, a young man, age 25. Again, that you have. I think your greatest achievement is actually to have the courage to say, look, I'm going to put a full-length novel in print. And I find that is an amazing feat for a 25-year-old.
Thank you.
But have you ever thought about the anguish of the author, the man who writes a book and who would send his manuscript to various publishers, and he doesn't know whether he will even get an acknowledgement. Well, he'll get an acknowledgement, but whether he's going to get any kind of response whatsoever. One, and two, whether in the first place his work is going to be published at all. And imagine that he's spending his life, all his time, working on his publications. Sometimes when we talk with such people and we read about such people, it seems to be, the most restless mind that you can find around the place. You feel any sense of restlessness also?
A two-part question, so I'll answer the first part in terms of getting it out there. I will admit that there were a lot of blockades that came up. In terms of, initially I had no idea how to go about publishing this book, so I went to the directory, and I started looking for numbers, and I think, and I want to just touch a little bit on the service industry in Trinidad and Tobago here, which is where, I have never been able to get feedback regarding the manuscript you call, and the most famous answer I think I've gotten at all times was, the boss not here right now.
As a standard response.
As the standard response. So that could be a template for what I went up with. I even, looked at different academic institutions and trying to, see, is there any program that I could become a part of if I want to find out how to publish it? So that didn't work out, and what I decided was, this should not stop in other words, this should not limit my ability to get my book out there. So I started doing a lot of research on the internet. I started looking up how I could go about publishing it, and I was able to find the information and go about actually putting it into reality. I aligned myself with graphic script printing to get the job done for me. So what I would say though is that I have been denied, and a lot of people are probably being denied the privilege to have some expert firm, criticize your work, because the risk I'm running is I could be publishing a book here that doesn't land well, or it could have been enhanced.
I don't know whether we have a film company of Trinidad and Tobago, and well-known playwright and former Minister of Government and so on, Ralph Maraj heads that film company. I don't know whether they would they're interested in publications. I know that they're interested in the production of films, local films.
Yes, but what they do is they more on a support basis. That's the Trinidad and Tobago Film Company.
Yes.
Yeah, they're more on a support basis, like somebody they